What's up, everybody? I'm Katie, and this is For Your Misinformation, a podcast dedicated to making politics more accessible for everyday Americans. My goal is to empower people, especially women, to become more politically engaged so we can act in our own best interests. Let me identify the problem and tell you exactly how we can solve it. On Mondays, I break down topics like voter suppression, impeachment, and white supremacy, look to the experts in that field, and then talk about the ways we can help the most. That might be donating to a charitable organization, voting in a local election, going to a rally, following activists on social media, running for office, or whatever else we can think of. On Wednesdays, I highlight individual politicians, whether I support them, and who you might want to vote for instead. Today, I let one of my best friends choose the topic, so let's see what Lindsay in Philadelphia has to say today.
Hi, Katie. Longtime listener, first-time caller. I have an important question. So, I know Mitch McConnell really sucks, but I don't know what I can do here from Pennsylvania. Any advice?
Yes, thank you. I am so excited to have an excuse to talk shit about Mitch McConnell today. Of all the politicians in the United States, I think I hate Mitch McConnell the most. He's like uniquely devoid of shame. Since becoming Senate Majority Leader in 2015, McConnell has stolen a Supreme Court seat, tried to take healthcare away from 20 million Americans, and stopped the Senate from doing anything other than confirming extreme right-wing judges to lifetime appointments. He's just such an asshole. He's a Republican senator from Kentucky and the Senate Majority Leader, which basically means he's the boss of all the Republican senators. It's his job to keep shit moving in the Senate. He was elected by the rest of the Republicans in the Senate to be the Senate Majority Leader. Remember when he held open a Supreme Court justice seat for over a year so Obama couldn't appoint Merrick Garland? That was Mitch McConnell's doing. So the Republicans in Congress saw him pull that bullshit in 2015 and thought, cool, yeah, let's elect that guy again. I have another example just to give you some additional sense of this guy's character. Keep in mind that President Trump has already been impeached in the House, so now it's the Senate's job to act as the jury in his trial to see if he'll be removed. Listen to this clip of Mitch McConnell talk about Trump's upcoming impeachment trial in the Senate.
What is your message to Americans who might have concerns about your ability to be an impartial juror, given your comments that you're coordinating with the White House, you're working closely with them? What is your message?
I'm not an impartial juror. This is a political process. There's not anything judicial about it. Impeachment, I'm not impartial about this at all. I think it's pretty safe to say in a partisan exercise like this, people sort of sign up with their own side. And what we may have felt 20 years ago may not be the same as today. And you can quote virtually any of us who were here during that period to be on the opposite side because of the nature of the process. I think we're going to get an almost entirely partisan impeachment. I would anticipate an almost entirely partisan outcome in the Senate as well.
That shit would get you rejected from a jury. If you said that in the middle of a trial, it would cause a mistrial, but we're just cool with the most important politician in the Senate saying it? Why? See, he sucks. Can you imagine if the defendant was allowed to coordinate their strategy with the jury? That's what's happening. Mitch McConnell is coordinating their strategy for this trial with Donald Trump and the White House. It's fucked up and no one is mad enough about it. Okay, for reference, Mitch McConnell's counterpart is the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. So he is the Senate Majority Leader. He's in charge of the Republicans in the Republican-held Senate. Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House, and she is in charge of all the Democrats in the House of Representatives, which is majority Democratic. Does that make sense? So she has her shit on lock. They have passed almost 400 bills into the Senate this year, from the House to the Senate. The Senate has signed 70. They've passed 400, Senate signed 70. The rest are just sitting there because Mitch McConnell refuses to bring them to a vote. So when people say they're tired of corrupt politicians who don't play by the rules, Mitch McConnell is the poster boy for that shit. Now Republicans are pretending that impeachment is the reason for slowing legislation in the Senate? Fuck that. Mitch McConnell slowed legislation in the Senate to a grinding halt. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking he gives a fuck about shit like that. Impeachment isn't slowing down legislation. Impeachment is holding an unlawful president accountable. For months now, President Donald Trump has tweeted accusing House Democrats of getting nothing done in Congress and being consumed with impeachment. But what about the first 10 months of the year before impeachment started, when the Senate was busy confirming judges instead of voting on legislation? That's what they're spending all their time on. They don't have time to vote on legislation because they're confirming extreme right-wing judges to the courts, often for lifetime appointments. So here's the truth. Democrats in the House have been passing bills left and right. As of November 15th, the House has already passed nearly 400 bills, not including resolutions. The Senate has passed just 70 of those bills into law this year. We typically see 500 bills passed in 2 years, somewhere between 300 and 500 bills passed in 2 years. And even that is a diminished number from the 700 to 800 bills that used to get passed in the 70s and 80s. Remember, a bill has to be passed by the House and the Senate to become a law. So the House and the Senate used to agree on somewhere between 700 and 800 bills every 2 years. In the last 2 years, they've agreed on and passed just 70. And that's because Mitch McConnell and his Senate suck. 80% of those bills are stuck in Mitch McConnell's Senate, where Majority Leader McConnell has completely prioritized confirming judges instead of passing legislation. So Pelosi is passing legislation in the House, and McConnell is ignoring it so he can confirm judges and reshape the judiciary instead. But Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump are not the kind of people you want reshaping your judiciary. People refer to Mitch McConnell's Senate as a legislative graveyard, and he's proud of that shit. He calls himself the Grim Reaper of Democratic legislation that he believes to be socialist. But a lot of the bills that never get brought to the Senate floor are bipartisan issues, meaning they're written and co-signed by Democrats and Republicans. These include a universal background check bill, net neutrality, reauthorizing of the Violence Against Women Act, raising the minimum wage, ensuring equal pay, and McConnell still won't even bring them to a vote. Really? If those things are popular among everyday Americans, which they are, and Mitch McConnell doesn't bring those bills to a vote, that means he's bad at his job. Also, let's talk about Mitch McConnell's definition of socialism for a second. The bills I mentioned above, like raising the minimum wage and ensuring equal pay, those are bills that Democrats want to pass, but Republicans claim are too expensive and socialist. For just a second, I want you to get the excuse, but how are we going to pay for it out of your mind? We spend more on our military than the next 7 countries combined, including China, Saudi Arabia, and Russia. And no one ever questions how we're going to pay for that. Again, Trump and the Republican leadership are gaslighting us. It's all about priorities. We could prioritize everyday Americans instead if we got corrupt politicians like McConnell and Trump out of office, and we could really, really legislate the kind of things that we care about. We could be getting so much done with a Democratic Congress and a Democratic president. I fantasize about it sometimes. Everyone I know wants gun reform, affordable health care, universal child care, and that's the kind of shit that would make my life better. Those are all progressive policies. Those are the kind of bills that could pass if Mitch McConnell was gone and we had a Democratic majority in the Senate, not just the House. And that's possible, but we have work to do between now and November. I glossed over a pretty big problem earlier, how Trump and McConnell are hastily packing the courts while they think no one's looking. McConnell is confirming right-wing judges all day long, some of them with lifetime appointments, and they suck. Trump has appointed over 25% of all current federal judges. That is a terrifyingly high number. And typically they're young and always very conservative, and some of them don't even have judicial experience. They're just being nominated because they don't believe a woman has the right to choose. We will be feeling the effects of these appointments for decades to come. Remember Merrick Garland? How McConnell held the seat open for a year so Obama couldn't appoint Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court after Scalia died? If you weren't paying as much attention back when Obama was president, Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia died unexpectedly in 2015, leaving a Supreme Court justice seat open and ready to be filled by the current president. Normally, a president would appoint a judge and there would be hearings to decide if she or he was good enough. and it's up to the Senate to confirm them. So Obama appointed Merrick Garland, and McConnell just never bothered to confirm him. For a whole year, McConnell refused to even hold hearings on Merrick Garland. Corruption in Washington is not all the same. Republican leadership is literally playing by their own rules. So Trump got to appoint Gorsuch instead. He stole a Supreme Court seat, so now the court has a conservative majority, and soon a woman's right to choose is going to be challenged. I've said it before and I've said it again, there is no equality without reproductive freedom. So everyone who said there wasn't a difference between a vote for Trump and a vote for Hillary, do you understand why we felt so strongly about that now? Well, if you've changed your mind, we need you to join us now because we need all the help that we can get. Remember Brett Kavanaugh, how he was credibly accused of sexual assault and how Mitch McConnell supported his confirmation? Well, other judges confirmed by Mitch McConnell and the rest of the Senate Republicans include John K. Bush, a birther conspiracist, meaning he spread racist lies that the first Black president was not born in America. Yeah, that's racist. That means that there's a racist judge. They confirmed him for a judgeship in the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals, one level below the Supreme Court. Birthers are racist-ass people. They're not supposed to make it to that level of the court. Another example, Stuart Kyle Duncan. He's a straight-up homophobe, and he was confirmed to the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals. Republicans in the Senate confirmed a judge who ruled it legal to force women to watch a fetal ultrasound before allowing her to have an abortion. Can you imagine, just for a second, that you're pregnant, you've come to the conclusion that you're not ready to start a family, you go to a clinic, talk about it with a doctor, decide an abortion is right for you, but before you can actually go forward with the procedure, you have to watch an ultrasound of the fetus? Why? I don't know who needs to hear this, but it's your body. No one gets to decide what you get to do with it. If you don't want to have a baby right now, then you don't have to. The end. Our lives are more important. If you have goals that you want to accomplish and an unplanned pregnancy would get in the way of those for whatever reason, reproductive health care, including abortion, needs to be available and affordable for everyone if we ever want gender equality. Equality is impossible without reproductive justice, and I will not compromise on this point. Like I've said before, it's not hard to see who the good guys and the bad guys are here. The bad guys are the ones who think our first Black president was born in a different country, that it should be illegal for gay people to get married, and that women don't deserve the right to choose. Together, Trump and McConnell are completely remaking the judiciary to be in line with their racist, sexist beliefs. These kind of right-wing judges are being appointed as quick as they can. It's McConnell's little political baby to reshape the courts and overturn Roe. He's been working on it with the Federalist Society to install these young conservative judges who will be hearing challenges to the laws for decades to come, and they bring their bias with them. This is just one of the topics I'm worried about, but oh my God, a woman's right to choose is just such a major issue that I can't even believe it's being debated. The fact that we have judges who believe that a woman doesn't deserve the right to choose is bananas, but they're just people. They can be corrupt, they can be biased, and we have to get the corrupt, biased ones out. All we can do is continue to vote for people who have their constituents' interests at heart, and for me, that means voting for progressive Democrats, especially like Elizabeth Warren. So here's the good news. Mitch could totally lose his job in 2020. He's defending one of his party's 22 Senate seats that are up for re-election in 2020. And they only control the Senate by 3 seats, so it's totally possible for us to flip the Senate blue. And let's start with Mitch McConnell. If we elect Amy McGrath, we might actually see a day when Congress could pass laws that would protect voting rights or combat climate change, guarantee health care, protect a woman's right to choose. So let's send Mitch back to Kentucky for good and send Amy McGrath to Congress instead. It's a long shot, but crazier things have happened. So let's go all in for Amy. She's my favorite candidate that's running against Mitch McConnell. Again, her name is Amy McGrath. She's pro-choice and pro-gun sense legislation, and in Kentucky, that's really all I need to know about you. If you live in Kentucky, go vote for her. Go volunteer for her. If you're an American, you should donate money to her campaign. I gave her $20. Everyone should follow her on social media. Again, her name is Amy McGrath. I'll tag her in my Instagram stories. If you want to learn more about her, just Google Amy McGrath Senate, and there's a ton of information on her policy positions. I hope you all understand why I have such a fuming hatred of Mitch McConnell now. So let's all do what we can to get Amy McGrath elected Senator of Kentucky. Shout out to Hope Dye for the podcast art, Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, and Ben Schlofelt for the audio production. I'd like to thank Lauren Duca, Sarah Kensier, Andrea Chalupa, Brene Brown, Lizzo, AOC, Nancy Pelosi, Karen Kilgariff, Georgia Hardstark, Marie Newman, and my mom for their inspiration, and I'd like to thank you for listening.